Hey guys, welcome back to another Tasting Tuesday video, and we're sticking with the liquor again, and we're hitting some whiskey this week, specifically bourbon from Kentucky. Now these are two of my favorite bourbons, especially Wild Turkey, one of my favorites. This is Longbranch, which if you guys are fans of Matthew McConaughey, he actually became an ambassador to Wild Turkey. I want to say like 5-6 years ago. You might want to fact check me on that, but you can go on YouTube and search the little video where it's a great little 5-minute documentary where they talk about how they make the whiskey, the many generations that are still making the whiskey, and his love for it. And he was so into Wild Turkey 101 that he wanted to make his own with Wild Turkey. So they worked hard to find kind of a new twist on it. And I believe he used, so he found there's an oak in Texas, like a wood called Texas mesquite. And once they make the bourbon, very similar to how they make Wild Turkey, they charcoal filter or charcoal refine it through that Texas mesquite, which gives it kind of a Texas whiskey twist, but it's still 100% bourbon. Usually when they charcoal refine or charcoal filter, that would usually be called like a Tennessee whiskey. And Jack Daniel's, Uncle Nearest, a couple others. We'll get to some Tennessee whiskeys on this channel. It's not a huge category. I think Jack Daniel's and Uncle Nearest are probably the two most popular, but the only difference really between these two, bourbon and Tennessee whiskey, is that they filter it through this maple charcoal, and that gives it kind of a maple syrupy taste, which some people love and some people hate. So this one has a similar process with the Longbranch, but it's done through not maple wood, but it's done through this oak and Texas mesquite. Specific woods. So let's dive right into our tasting. We're gonna go head to head here and see if we can pick out the differences. These are coming in at different percentages. The 101, of course, is 101 proof, and so that is about 50.5%. And this Longbranch is coming in at a more reasonable percentage at 43, so what is that, 86 proof. I really like the bottle of the Longbranch. I think it's a really great fun bottle, and of course the Wild Turkey is classic bourbon, high rye, which I love. You can mix it with an old fashioned because of the rye whiskey component. Also the high proof, it'll go great in the cocktail. You have a real strong flavorful cocktail. And let's see what I get. Immediately I'm getting that spice of the rye whiskey. Rye whiskey has kind of an herbaceous note, kind of like green tea, like spices and herbs, oregano, basil, and then it's got like a spicy, almost cinnamon, cayenne pepper backbone to it. So it's not necessarily the best for drinking it straight. You can make really good cocktails with rye whiskey. An original old-fashioned calls for rye whiskey. What's the other one? You can mix it with Mr. Black coffee, make like kind of a coffee whiskey over ice drink, and then classic Manhattan is with vermouth and rye whiskey. But this is high rye because bourbon has to be 51% corn to be called bourbon, and then they can use grains or malts or wheat or rye, whatever they want to fill the rest of the bottle, but it has to be 51% corn to be called bourbon. And I think they're using mostly rye in the rest of this, but you get a little bit of that sweetness and that wood flavor that you get from bourbons, which I've talked about not really liking in the past. I find them to be a little bit rich. Yeah, I'm getting like kind of a vanilla syrupy, like a cooked vanilla syrup, a little bit of caramel. There's a little bit of that bite from the rye, which is coming off as like a cinnamon spice. But I think the heavy note is the wood. I'm really getting the wood because bourbon is required to use brand new barrels, which the first time you use a barrel, you get a lot of that wood in there. And then Scotch and other liquors will use the barrels that have already been used, so you're getting a lot less of the wood notes. But bourbon is really defined by that wood from the first use barrels. Let's move on to smelling the Longbranch here. Whoa. So much more mellow. Like immediately I'm thinking like honey. I'm feeling like this has been watered down. I'm still getting a little bit of that bourbon smell, but it's a lot different and a lot lighter. I'm getting like a ripe banana on this one. Like banana, honey, a little bit of that charcoal, like a little bit of, not as much like a fresh wood that you get on this, but more like a burnt wood, like a little bit of a, kind of like a charcoal from a grill. But so light. I mean, the dominant things are definitely the honey and that banana. Yeah, let's give it a taste. I'm going to start with the Longbranch. Wow, immediately I'm getting that banana, like that fruit, like a creaminess, like almost like a banana cream pie. But then it immediately hits you with this spice, very mellow, compared to the rye in this, but because it's been charcoal refined here, and it's a lower proof, so you're not going to get as much of that heat that sometimes people feel the spice and they think, oh, it's a spicy whiskey. It could just be that it's, more alcohol, like in the 101 here. So definitely a lot lighter. A little bit of maple syrup on the end, getting a little bit of that wood again, slightly smoked wood, banana, a little bit of honey, wood. And there might be a little bit of wheat in here too, because I'm getting kind of like almost like a pancake, like banana pancake. I mean, it's very good. I think most people, if you bought this, you would be like, that's a home run, right? Matthew McConaughey has done a bunch of marketing on it. It's a great bottle. It's from Wild Turkey, which is a reputable company for years now. But it just kind of disappears. If you put that over ice, I mean, you got 2 sips and it's going to be water. You're not really going to taste much. It's very light. Because it's at 43%, not 40%, I may not be able to sip on this all night. I mean, the higher the proof gets, it can definitely burn. It starts burning your mouth and your tongue. I mean, you can put some water in this just to kind of bring it down to 40 or 35% alcohol. And then you probably could sip it. But I just think that it's, even though you're getting these interesting flavors, I really don't think it's as great as it could be, just because it's so light and there's no finish. I mean, once you take a sip, it just, you get that banana, that honey, that maple syrup gone. And you're like, I got to take another sip. And that's not always what you want with a whiskey. You kind of want it to linger and build and stay with you for a minute until you take the next sip. So let's move to the Wild Turkey. Wow. Okay, the higher alcohol, you immediately feel the spice and the burn from the alcohol a little bit. It's definitely a little hot. That's why I really do like this with ice, because as you drink it, I mean, like I said, the first 2 sips of 20 are good, and then it dilutes. This one, the first 15 sips are great, and the last couple will be diluted, because it's such a stronger flavor. As soon as you get past the spice and the higher alcohol proof, you're getting a lot of, ripe cherry, black cherry. that wood, that mapley honey wood. There's like a sweetness to it. It's woody, not in a way of like a smoky, like barbecue. It's a woody of like an old gym. You know, you walk in an old gym where the bleachers are wood and the floor is wood, and there's that kind of, you know, ancient, like aged smell to it. It's got kind of this musty, sort of woody smell, and that's what I'm getting in the nose and in the palate. There I'm getting like a sharp raspberry, like a berry. Lots of vanilla, lots of wood. I mean, every time I come back to this, every sip is going to be a little bit different. And I think that just shows, you know, the true quality here in Wild Turkey. And a lot of people have said that the 80 proof, the regular one, is not as good. The 101 is the one to go for. I've never had the regular, but the 101 is great. For more than 60 years, legendary master distiller Jimmy Russell has been crafting Wild Turkey 101 one way, the right way. With high rye content, this iconic bourbon is perfectly aged for up to 6 to 8 years in American oak barrels with the deepest char for more character. We bottle at 101 proof, and only once it reaches its full complex flavor, caramel, vanilla, toffee, spice, is when they bottle. As Jimmy says, like the Kentucky River, Wild Turkey 101 is mighty bold and takes its own sweet time. Amazing. A little bit of that toffee. Not getting as much toffee. Definitely the caramel, the vanilla, spice, cherry. More banana on this one. Light banana, cherry, ripe, acidic. I mean, these are both fantastic. This one's coming in at $20. This is a must-buy for the value. I mean, this is easily drinking, you know, $40, $50 bourbon. I mean, this could compete in a blind test. It's been my favorite for a long time. It was great to kind of put it up against the Longbranch. I've definitely had both before. Never, you know, back-to-back like this. Yeah, I mean, I would also recommend the Longbranch. I think, you know, it's Wild Turkey. It's a great company. I think it's definitely for more beginner bourbon drinkers. I think if you like whiskey or you drink whiskey, you know, once or twice a month, you like Matthew McConaughey, this is a great bottle to put on your bar. I think it's coming in at like $43. So it's definitely not the value you're getting with this. And like I said, I think this is better whiskey. And at half the price, I definitely would have to recommend Wild Turkey over Longbranch, but I think they're both great bourbons, and I think you guys should pick them up and try them. Ratings, I'd say, you know, Wild Turkey, because of the value, the complexity, and everything, you're getting 101 proof. I mean, that's a crazy deal, and I'm going to say my rating on this, I'll say 8 out of 10. I think it's a real bargain. And the Longbranch, I'm going to say 6.4 out of 10. It's definitely a lot more mellow. Not what I would think of when I think of a bourbon, but, you know, to each his own. I think if you're getting into whiskey, I think, you know, give it a try. Especially if you like Matthew McConaughey, I'm sure he gets some of the proceeds here since he signed the bottle. Matthew McConaughey right there. Thank you guys for joining me on this Tasting Tuesday. We'll see you back next week for another tasting.